All right, good afternoon, everyone. How y'all doing? I got you a little bit after lunch, but not too far after lunch that we're gonna lose you. And we tried to do a cool Mr. Bang video. We're still working on our video, sir, and definitely we're gonna work on that music. But just a little, we just want to give you an opportunity to see a little bit of what PEO EIS is going on. Good afternoon. I'm Brigadier General R.J. Mikish. I'm the Deputy PEO of Enterprise Information Systems, and we're grateful for you all spending a little bit of time with us this afternoon. As we call it, the Deputies panel. I also have the CIO with us today, as well as some of our deputies from our larger project management offices, and we just want to kind of give you a little sense of what is going on in EIS right now, kind of as Mr. Garcia said, where are we in the movie, so to speak. And as you can imagine, like all the PEOs, we too have a lot going on. And if you talk about my role now as the deputy role, I often get asked a question, well, what's the role of the deputy PEO? What are you going to focus on as I assume this role starting back in May? You know, and first and foremost, as you heard Mr. Hepworth say, and Mr. Bang talked a lot about, we are in the midst of digital transformation. So we're about a year and a half in, so we're obviously maturing our transformation, and part of that is all about delivering capability on time. That's what we're really focused on, and we're focused on 3 pillars. So 3 pillars of delivery that Mr. Hepworth talks about is speed, simplicity, and excellence. So my role in that, first and foremost, I'm going to look internally to the PEO, and it's because it's all about people. So focusing on talent management across our portfolios, both the military side, the DA civilian, and our support contractors, because we can't do anything without those 3 groups coming together inside of our formation. So looking at not only hiring, retaining, doing the talent management pipeline, the training, and in a lot of cases upskilling, because now we're trying to be agile practitioners, and we need a workforce that is skilled in that art and science, and bringing new folks on as we get new and evolving skills that we require in our formations, whether it's data science, it's analytics. So we're constantly working on talent management. That's the first priority. Second is looking internally at the PEO business. So as we transform programs, like you heard Mr. Hepworth and the other leaders speak about today, yes, we're absolutely moving in many cases away from waterfall into agile, but we also have to transform the PEO itself. We can't do business like we've been doing it over the past 5-10 years and expect to get the outcomes we're looking for. So looking internally, I'm talking about, as Mr. Hepworth talked in his thing about the LACE, how are we going to do Lean Agile Center of Excellence? What's the new way of looking at program status? So our metrics internally to understand, it's not, I grew up in the days of quarterly training briefs or quarterly performance reviews. That's kind of aged out. That's a little OBE at this point. So how do we look across that? Also, financial management. When we talk about digital transformation, we don't just do program management and change that, and as someone said, just use the buzzwords. We actually have to think about how we transform contracting, how we transform the financial management and the budgeting and palming aspects of that. Cost estimating is another one we've put a lot of energy into over the recent year to kind of do bottoms-up program cost estimates. And also the administration. How do we look at doing a cadence that supports all of our PMs in a way that we're providing value at the PEO headquarters. I've been in those shoes. I've had the charters hanging on my wall, and I always want to make sure that whatever staff you have is providing value add. And then the last thing is program focus for me. So Mr. Hepworth and I are kind of somewhat splitting that up a little bit to allow us to have specific focus. Mine's going to be in human capital. I came out of IPSA, so I'm going to continue to provide some oversight for the IPSA portfolio, as well as the Army Data and Analytics platform. So that kind of falls into human capital. And I think that allows myself and Mr. Hepworth to maintain we have focus and the proper support that we need across the board for the portfolio. If we could go to the next slide, please. We talked about, we heard this morning, and I'm sure you are all very familiar with how we're talking about from the Chief of Staff in the Army's perspective, and also General Rainey at Army Futures Command, how we're talking about transformation in the Army today and how that is changing. And specifically, transformation in contact is one of the big phrases you hear being used. In fact, there was a great military review article that was just published a couple of days ago, authored by General Rainey, all about Army transformation, and they talk about these principles. So what I want to talk about today is, so what are we doing at PEO EIS to align to that methodology? Okay, so we're software. A lot of times when you hear about transformation and contact, you're hearing about things like drones and radios and what they're doing with some of the units. We're doing the same type of thing. This actually aligns perfectly with what our transformation needed to do for Agile. We want to think about doing things where you don't have to have the requirement perfect up front, that you break down and decompose requirements into stories, and that you can do things incrementally. So this was a perfect opportunity for us to work within our portfolio and with our functionals to start saying, how can we get things out faster? Another thing about this is human-centered design. This really is, at its basic level, human-centered design. Just that the generals usually talk about it in terms of getting soldiers involved. That's exactly what we want in our programs at EIS, is to have soldiers involved. We've made huge strides at getting functionals as a part of our sprint teams now. But I make a distinction that the functional communities are not necessarily always the users. It's even better when I can get the software into the hands of the users, and one of the things we want to do with this is not to do what we used to call soldier touch points. A soldier touch point is when I go to that unit and I let him see something, I get some feedback, and I go back to home station. What we're trying to do is actually get software, minimum viable products, into the hands of the soldiers, allow them to continue to use it so that we can get that feedback back and iterate on that, understand our requirements better, and make better software, principally in the areas of user interface and intuitiveness. I want to reduce training time on soldiers, and I want to let that software we give them be more intuitive. So I got two specific examples of where we're doing this today. One of them is actually depicted here with the Army Training and Information System. We actually have that software now. We're focusing on sunsetting the DTMS application for training. That's what the first priority for the Army leaders are. So we have actually 3 units that have the software right now. We have a 1st Infantry Division company, a U.S. Army Reserve company, and a 10th Mountain company that all have the software. And there's some screenshots that I got to see. It is incredible to see what we thought as technologists, what we thought screens were going to be intuitive until you let a company of soldiers use it. We've iterated 4 times, and the screen looks completely different than when we started on how to do things like job books and soldier small unit tasks. So I'm really incredibly proud to have our organizations out there with soldiers and doing things like that. And the second one is the Accessions Information Environment, the new modern recruiting system. So we're teamed with USAREC, and as it becomes a direct reporting unit now at the 3-star level, both on the National Guard. In fact, we're giving it to the Ohio National Guard, a software preview along the software pathway. We're doing that here in 2 weeks, and then we have 5 experimental companies with USAREC that will give software to a handful of soldiers in all 5 companies. So I think it's a great example of how we're using where the Army's trying to go to, transforming in contact, to allow us to build better software for our soldiers. So that's just a couple of glimpses. I think one other thing I want to just bring up that we're talking about with industry for out there is that you're going to hear more and more about a thing called digital city. So if you've heard that yet, I'm getting inquiries about that, and I'm glad that word is getting out. And that is a concept where we, the United States Army, EIS kind of in the lead, but it's a broader Army initiative, partnering with Virginia Tech and then industry and trying to get a location within Crystal City, Virginia, Arlington area, where we can do a teaming arrangement of bringing the Army, Virginia Tech, and large industry. It's kind of an inverse of Capital Factory. We're talking about large OEMs, large integrators, teaming with us in a space where we can be more innovative and get more capability into the hands of the soldiers faster. So if anyone has any questions about that, happy to talk about that. But I've talked long enough, and I'm going to now pass it to Mr. Mike Chappell, the PEO EIS CIO, for some of the things that are going on in his area.
Good afternoon, everyone. Really excited to speak to you guys today about a lot of new and innovative things going on at PEO Enterprise. I'm the CIO for PEO Enterprise, and I have a huge announcement and also a pipeline of different things that we're thinking about. So 2 things of which you should be really familiar with on things that are happening around PEO Enterprise. So what we're coming up with, really the takeaway for me this morning with the 2 different keynotes that we went to was about how to disrupt the status quo and also how to make DoD jelly is the official term. And I think this is what really where kind of the rubber meets the road on new innovative ways of approaching things. We are creating a brand new product league called PL Innovate that is going to be reporting to headquarters for enterprise capabilities that we can streamline that are common across all of our different programs. And why that makes is a huge leap forward is we're integrating and pulling in technical talent across all of the verticals that you see here. A lot of you should be very familiar with this in industry, but I've worked really hard at pulling in some key talent into PEO EIS, PEO Enterprise, and we'll be. My first was Ali Mohammed, our new CISO, who is a leader. He came from G6 and CIO's area, and he knows cybersecurity better than anyone I know. And he is linked in with all the ISMs across all of our programs and is pushing RM. Some people call him the godfather of RMF 2.0. I'm just trying to start rumors here. But also pulled in 2 people from industry. So Ryan Cowley, a chief technical enterprise architect, that I knew him as a developer, but he's built entire systems, gone through security stacks, was a former Marine, and he's kind of a technical savant, if you will, the unicorn that we need in that position. And also pulled in an AI data director, Sohaib Sami from industry, who's built a lot of different systems, data fabrics for the DoD and for Army, and is a thought leader when it comes to how to apply data mesh from the things that he's learned from implementing data fabrics. So I'm really excited about that. We also have other positions we're bringing in. One of the latest and best new hires is Miranda Coleman in the back here. A wealth of information on how to deliver and is the key hinge point on how a matrixed organization is going to work at the headquarters layer. In that we're bringing in a whole product lead with APMs on different programs that are going to run across all these technical capability units so that we have fallback from a technical and from a delivery standpoint. So really excited about PL Innovate and the products that we're doing. So if you go to the next slide, I'll touch a little bit on kind of what's made it through the pipeline from a maturity standpoint. So when I first came on about 1.5 years ago, lots of things to do, more than you could possibly accomplish. So how do I write all this down and then prioritize the things that matter most? And we went across all of the PMs, took down all their technical debt and where we could kind of impact things. And where we landed on is implementing our first 3 different assistant program managers underneath PL Innovate are going to run a neighborhood watch, which is really how do we, within PEO Enterprise, accomplish the UC mission and jumpstart it? We have so much data, almost as much data as in UCIM today exists within EIS. We're going to double UCIM. So how we do that, and from a technical and operational standpoint, making sure we're effective is a massive and our number 1 priority from a CIO's office within PEO Enterprise. The second is around DevSecOps. A lot of our programs have been exploring different CI/CD pipelines. The transition to Agile last year has been a key piece of a number of tooling stacks. Our approach has been very innovative in that we're going to have a federated model where we're going to choose 3 to 5 great products, standardize down, and make it more cost efficient and effective with transparency at the headquarters layer for all of our DevSecOps pipelines. So that's the mission there. And we're getting huge support from all the PMs that have already started exploring each of these different tool stacks. And I think the best thing that will come out of it is visibility into making sure all of our code is scanned before it moves into production. And then lastly, our Army Data Mesh expansion. So we're looking at how do we apply the UDRA, learn from the UDRI implementations, and go program to program and how to build it from bottom up to enable data products for a lot of programs that have already jumped in with 2 feet to building out data products and APIs and capability stacks. How do we then grow that and match the architecture that has been laid for us? So those are the first 3 out the gate. You can see there's a number of things coming. So, what I would love to hear from industry when you come up to meet with me are the things on the very left, the things that are coming. How do I best prioritize those? which ones should be centralized at a headquarters capability and function area for efficiency and effectiveness, and then how are we delivering today and enabling things in maybe the middle maturity into coming full capabilities for PEO Enterprise. And I will leave it with that and pass it off here to Sergio.
All right. Hello. Can you hear me okay? Yep. All right. Hey, good afternoon. Appreciate everybody being here. So we talked a lot about digital transformation, and when we start to look at what the digital marketplace is doing, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're really focused in on how we get capability to soldiers faster, and that's a whole process, right? From how vendors, industry, the PMs come in and order equipment, how we get those transferred into requirements, and then over to an ACC to release that contract, right? And so everybody's kind of familiar with that process, and what we're really trying to do is make that seamless to get capability out quicker and faster, so that we get that solution out to whoever needs it at the moment that they need it. If we can go to the next slide, please. So this is kind of our vision. I got to stand up and see just a little bit. So our main focus is turning to the customer, focusing on what that customer needs, not so much just how we provide capability. It's when you come to the site and you're trying to order equipment, how do we make that faster for you? How do we make it seamless for you? How are you able to search for your product so that you know exactly what you need without having an understanding of what contracts you need to get to in order to get it? You just want to see it, buy it, put it in a cart, and click checkout, right? And what we're really trying to focus in on is when we go to that checkout process is how do we automate that in the back end to reduce that time for you to get your capability? That's primarily our focus. So we're striving for efficiencies and value and looking at how we deliver capability quicker. Next slide. So the way that we're trying to focus in on this concept is that we're really looking at you as a user, right? Really looking at those soldiers that are coming in and need to get capability. We know that from the perspective of who's going in and buying equipment or buying software or buying services is that they are real focused in on, I want to be able to get this and get it ordered and be able to see where it's at in that process as I move through. And then I need to know when I'm going to get it by, right? And so part of our challenge and what we're working through right now is exactly that. Build a digital marketplace that's literally a marketplace where you can come in, place your orders, get in, get out, and then be able to track that through its process as to when you're going to receive it. Our other part of that is making sure that we automate on the back end how we do acquisitions. Creating things that are going to enable a user to be able to put their requirements in, but on the back end, we're automating all of that ART package and processes for you so that when it gets to the ACCs or to the mix, right, they already have a package ready to go and award. And so we want to shorten that time frame as quickly as possible so that we can get that capability out. Okay. Next slide. So it's real focused on the three things, and I think we heard this, right? People, processes, and technology. And so people, really the user, right? Whomever that user is, we're not being specific on that. We have a card that's being placed at the chest booth. We have cards that are sitting around at certain tables for you to go in and click a QR code and start giving us feedback on where we are with what your thoughts are, what you want to see improve, what are some of the challenges you're having, so that we can grab that as user stories and put that into our solution set so we can start building that capability for you to come out so you can see and understand where we are in the process and how we can deliver that capability. Part of that is really looking at building that marketplace, having an environment available for folks to be able to make that, to see that solution, be able to come through and provide that feedback to us so we know how to deliver it and get that out to you sooner. Next slide. And so that's what I have for now. I'll pass this over to Mike.
I have Michael Gormley here, Deputy EBSC. Serge and I had the distinct privilege of sitting on the end, so we have to get up and look to see the slide. Didn't really plan on that. So just a little bit about our organization up front. Our focus is EBSC, the product, what I'm talking about here today. You do see on the screen ASIP Hub and AHRS. They are within our portfolio today. There'll be another that'll follow in the year that's coming. but ultimately all roads lead to EBSC, so we'll end up with EBSC proper at the end of of this journey. So just wanted to put that out there. Our focus for right now is EBSC. So let's go to the next slide. I'm not going to drain this slide. This something you can consume and take home. The biggest thing that I want to point out here is something that General Mike Ish and I think Serge touched on, or Mike touched on, right? Human-centered design. We're trying to take advantage of the lessons learned over our predecessor ERPs within the Army, trying to take the complexity out of the user interfaces, right? It's great that we have these incredible products that are in our soldiers' hands, our users' hands today, but it's all meaningless if it's not intuitive, if it's not easy to use. Spoke with a user a few weeks ago at Fort Gregg Adams, where they talked about how they had to enter one data element 20 different times on 20 different screens. Why is it that data element can't follow him? So, that's one of our challenges, is to make these user interfaces simple. And so with that, we'll have design thinking sessions with soldiers, right? With actual users of the product to get after what right should look like. We'll have those MVPs that go out to solicit direct feedback from real users, right? So that we can iterate and be better than before. So we have a pretty tall order. We want to make the system intuitive and enable the warfighter versus creating another item that takes 3 or 4 months just to become acclimated to. So with that, let's go to the next slide. Just a little bit about where we've been, where we've come, and where we're going. So just organizationally speaking, we were set up with lean governance in mind, and really that gets after empowering down to the lowest level possible. How can we push all the decisions when we think of designs, requirements, and so forth to that lowest possible level? And key to that is, as General said, having that close, tight relationship with our functional community. With that, we're going to have, in our agile delivery team, we're going to have product owners from our functional proponent. They're going to be helping us on a daily basis with requirements and what right looks like, and they'll be empowered to make key requirement decisions. So making huge strides over what we've done historically. And then that's just a testament to the disrupting the status quo that we've been able to take advantage of over the last couple of years. Thinking about the acquisition strategy, we did transition earlier this year from 5,000.75 to .87. On the surface, it may not sound like a lot, but again, it enables us to execute things at time of need versus putting years of work up front. For instance, having 5 years of requirements stacked up on the shelf that may become stale as the Army's needs change. Instead, we've got the big muscle movements that we've identified, and it's about decomposing those as we get towards the time of need, and that we deliver the right capability at the right time, and that we're able to continue to evolve from that. Think about our contracting. The OTA itself, it's been new to me. But I've learned so much through that process. But what's really big and a big win for the Army is that at the end of this, in a traditional FAR-based contract, we end up with vendors that, and I know there's probably other ways to do it under FAR-based contracts, but we typically end up with vendors who have a great product, then we run into roadblocks because we hadn't quite really thought about everything. We didn't quite turn all the stones over, so we would run into cyber issues or other barriers that would prevent us from implementing unique capability sets that would have been very helpful. With the OTA, we've been able to take that all the way through to prototyping in hardened Army environments, so that way we know when we award next month, we've got 2 vendors that, it's going to come down to best value. So we won't go into details here on that today, but we got 2 vendors that can execute, and we know that they can execute their products in these hardened Army environments without fail. So they're ready, turnkey, literally ready to run. And so super stoked, super excited about that. And then of course we've hit this quite a bit, and you're going to probably continue to hear it throughout today and tomorrow. Our software development. We are organizing around value, right? We've got cross-functional teams, so we've got teams that are set up that are no longer stovepipe. They are we're bringing a new dynamic to the way the Army executes, and it's going to be a huge win for us. So with that, I'm going to pause there and turn it over to you for any questions.
Before we do, I'll just kind of closing again. Thanks for being here. Spend some time this afternoon with us. It is our distinct honor and privilege to work in a PEO like this that produces software capabilities that actually run the Army. And when we come to work here, you talk about doing something rewarding. I mean, these are the largest enterprise business systems in the history of the Army, and in some cases, the largest business systems in the history of that OEM. When you think about the size and the scale of the U.S. Army and what it takes to get these systems up running, breathe life into them, modernize them, enhance them, and then some of the large modernization efforts that we talked about here today, on top of digitally transforming our organization, that's been a very dynamic, but also, for me, having been here since 2012 in and out of this PEO, to watch it transform is very impressive. And it takes all of us here, with the three people, like I said, the support contractors, civilians, military, but also industry. And we can't thank you enough for being partners with us on this journey and for the things we're doing now and what we're going to do. It's exciting times in the PEO, and we look forward to working with you all in the future. And with that, we'll take any questions if there are any.
Some questions out there. My name's Tara Clements and work for this group of gentlemen. I'll kick things off based on what I heard this morning at some of the sessions. So, Mike, I heard a lot about DSO. I'm wondering if you can provide a little bit of insight and context on how you're approaching DSO when it comes to the enterprise.
Yeah, our approach for PEO Enterprise is, I think, transformative in that it needs to be extremely flexible, but also conforming. So there needs to be a right balance of what tools that we can provide from an insight standpoint. So we're adopting a federated model. We have more tools out there than we know how to use properly across all of DoD. There are lots of agile project management tools or automated security or automated testing tools out there. So how do we choose the right ones that are more or less blessed and then integrated from an enterprise standpoint, so we have visibility and accountability from the PM to the 06 shop to headquarters, that we're all on the same page with how we're doing and making sure that we're securing code properly before it gets deployed. So what we're doing is building a baseline set of tools, probably 3 to 5 per capability area, that are fairly common across all of the programs today, so that we can standardize somewhat, but then we're going to integrate across those tools that we've already invested heavily into using across the PMs, and as much reuse as we possibly can, but knowing that we need to come out at the other end with visibility across all of our portfolio, from an agile governance standpoint, from a testing standpoint, making sure we're doing dynamic, static, software composition analysis. We talked about some of the bill of materials, software bombs that went out. Make sure you're tracking that. Make sure we're doing automated testing integrated with those pipelines so that we can transform the way the Army does testing for software. And then ultimately, the monitoring piece of it, we can bring in, the USEAM solution has a lot of capability for application monitoring to make sure it ties back into, once these code releases get published, that we can also be monitoring them as they get released. So we're doing a lot of great work there and prioritizing, one-to-end list on what will give us the biggest value over time as we transform all of PEO Enterprise and how we do DSO.
In reference to the PL Innovate pipeline slide, I noticed that you had put up something in reference to a low-code center of excellence. Could you unpack that a little bit more and discuss what the end result of that will be, not only for EIS, but Army writ large, and what the core focus of the COE will be as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, General Mikish, this is like his wheelhouse now, I feel like. Huge proponent, right? He's been around this for a long time. He's seen us use low-code platforms individually siloed at EIS for multiple years. So when I first came on board, the first people to suggest it to me, like, hey, we need to build a low-code center of excellence that's working better, was the actual platforms themselves. They're like, you guys are using our software wrong. You need to establish enterprise capability. We're packing in capabilities into these low-code platforms that you need to do that once and really reap the benefits across multiple implementations. Today we have sometimes several years developing a brand new low-code platform that is a copy of other programs that we've done. So going forward, how do we centralize those capabilities? How do we look at and examples out in federal? So the VA has a great program that they do from an app modernization standpoint we've been working with. We've been working with the CIO as well. He's very interested in how to bring in and centralize and get that done faster. We can bring contracting and capabilities that we're doing from an agile standpoint to enable us to build applications faster on top of those platforms. We need to turn it on its head and really decrease that time to value on application development. So.
For the Modern Software Development MAIDIQ that was released last week, are there programs that are likely to end up on that vehicle and others that aren't? And one other question, where is PL Innovate going to be tucked in the organization?
Yep. So two-part question. I don't know if I think everyone heard. So for the MSD contract, we're looking at it across where can we use it the best. I think one of my favorite terms in there is workforce liquidity. How do we build agile teams quickly to build capability? If you look at my organization chart in a matrix organization, how do we bring in industry to help bolster and accelerate the delivery of each of those capabilities across the APMs? I think that is a fantastic fit. For maybe some of our smaller programs also that need technical talent, or some of our largers that need to bring in a couple PIs to explore different pathways. Modern software development is the right path that we're thinking of in the future of how we're helping shape some of that with DASA-DES to enable us to leverage that. What was the second question, Greg? PL. Oh, well,
Where it's going to be.
yeah, where PL Innovate's going to get nested into EIS or PEO Enterprise. So the actual PL Innovate is going to report directly up to Mr. Hepworth at headquarters, and then be run across the CIO's office, as you've seen in that matrix kind of configuration, so that we have technical oversight and governance and fallback from a technical skills and development and delivery standpoint.
I just want to add, I'll start with the Innovate thing. I think the idea behind Innovate is, as he said, truly cross-cutting. And I know I personally have wanted something like this for a while, where we could really standardize and focus and basically unburden the PMs so they can focus on their unique tasks and let the common tasks fall to a group where they can get really good at providing that capability, whether it's DSO, whether it's Neighborhood Watch, or even low-code, no-code Center of Excellence. So I'm excited about standing up this organization, getting the right people in place, having that report structure, and really, like I said, trying to get the PMs focused on the uniqueness of each of their programs. I think MSD, I just want to say that we're doing our very best to really work to get all the different types of requirements in there. So to answer your question, Greg, I really think a lot of the PMs will use MSD. It would have to be something really unique, and I think we probably go through the vetting process with DASA-DES as to why it wouldn't go to MSD. So we're really trying to do the due diligence up front to think through different types, because modern software development, it could be making something on a low-code, no-code platform. It could be making it, kind of bespoke if it needed to be pro-coded. But a lot of times we're trying not to do that, right? We're trying to get more out of the box, SaaS. So we're trying to do, and that's a lot of things for these folks that are working on MSD to think through. But I appreciate the work they're doing on it. Thanks for the question. All right, I don't see any other hands, so I'll just leave you with a challenge. We're transforming, but we don't always get it right. So as we do, I think Mr. Kitts said it today, we're doing the same thing that C3T is doing, and that is we're trying to communicate more and more with industry ahead of an RFP. As many RFIs as we can get out there. Please engage back with us. Give us that feedback. Help us understand how you see this, whatever the problem set is, so that we can iterate on that. We saw it firsthand with the Army military payroll contract that we just awarded a few months ago. how much that morphed from what we thought it was going to be to what it ended up being in the final RFP was absolutely a direct result of industry engaging with us. So please continue to challenge us, continue to give us your ideas. Together we'll be better, and I appreciate all your feedback. Thanks again and hope you have a great rest of TechNet.